All right, so today we're going to be covering an older Napoleon gas insert, which is a millivolt system, having a constant on pilot light. And we will cover the operation, but today specifically we're going to be going over, first of all, the installation of the pilot assembly. There are several components that go into this. The first is the pilot tube itself, which provides the fuel to the pilot assembly, so this one. Next is the thermocouple, which will go into one of the ports, and each one of these will be a stream of gas and fire and will provide heat that will be picked up by the sensor. The next one is the sparker itself, which will generate the electrical spark to create the ignition for the pilot assembly. And lastly is the thermopile, which generates approximately 250 millivolts through the cold junction on the end, and the output is on these two wires right here. And those hook up to the valve, and then we'll do a pressure or a voltage reading on that a little bit later. Well, let's go ahead and start assembling. So first we put the thermopile in. It's the largest one. I remember it by thinking of it as a pile, and a pile is huge, a pile is large, and a thermopile is the largest sensor on the gas appliance. We'll keep our adjustable wrench handy as we tighten this. We don't need to be super tight on this, just need to be snug. And this is a used system, as you may have noticed. Here's our thermocouple, so we'll put it through the appropriate hole. Make sure our tube is straight. We don't want to crimp these tubes as they carry a small trace of current. And again, we'll just snug it up, nothing super tight. Next is the pilot tube. This one we got to be real careful with, because it will, as a hollow tube, it transports the gas from the gas valve to the actual pilot assembly, and it can get pinched very easily, so we'll want to be careful with this guy. We'll train them all in a straight row so we get a little more room to work on this guy. It's pretty tight tolerances. And if this one's loose, it will allow fuel to spill at this joint, and flame will shoot out and it will burn the other components. Lastly, we grab our igniter, sparker igniter. This is ceramic. If it cracks, it will cause cause an electrical short, and then it will no longer function. It will just short out to the body of the pilot assembly. Collectively, all these components are known as the pilot assembly. Great, everything is snug and tight. And then next we're going to pivot over and look at how to install it through the inside of the unit to the outside, and everything's going to come out in a big loop, and then we're going to install them all on this side. Great, so now we're going to go ahead and start tucking this in. Some of these components all end up the same distance from the end, so you might have to go one at a time, but try and keep them all together as a group, because it will make it a little bit easier for you. Looks like this component does not want to come off, so we're going to have to work around it. There's a tiny 1/2-inch hole that has a little plastic protector around it. So I push it through that from left to right and bring it out the side of the firebox. The next component is going to be, it looks like the pilot tube and sparker wire. And they're going to go one at a time. the large one. And it's really hard to see. Okay, I think that's everything there. That's everything through, coming out the other side, so all 4. Now, one of the things to bear in mind, if we zoom in and look, there are 3 outlets for fuel to flow out of this pilot hood where the flame will go. We need to turn the orientation so that one will shoot towards the main burner, one towards this sensor, one towards this sensor. So I could install it this way and it will shoot flame away from where the main burner will go. This being the main burner, which sets in here. We have to ignite this. So we can't shoot it away from that. We have to shoot it towards it. And it will land on one of these 2 and provide the ignition source for the main burner. Okay, so now we're going to aim for these 2 holes here. And we have to gently train these tubes. They are metal tubes. They do break. We're going to train them with a little curve. And just keep training them to get our angle correct into the opening. Great. Then we can take a cordless drill with a 1/4-inch bit. And that will just help facilitate the speed of putting the screws in. Always buy a magnetic tip for these. Okay, now the pilot assembly is secure on this side. Now we're going to change the perspective here. And we're going to start working on the actual installation on the box itself, on the valve. Great, now the wires have been run through from inside the firebox to outside. These 2 wires here on the gas valve are just for the switch, which is over on the extreme left-hand side. We're going to use these 3 screws here for the electrical connection of the thermopile. And we're just going to kind of roll this a little bit to kind of use up some of the length of that long wire. Usually a universal component is what we use. And we'll put these 2 guys on. Usually polarity, non-specific. We're going to go for TP and TP are the 2 terminals for thermopile. So this one and this one are the thermopile connections. This is true of all pretty much all these gas valves. So they're all very similar. Once you see one, you've seen them all. Secure it down with a screw. That's what makes a good electrical connection. Make sure we have a good tight. Good. Now our thermopile is connected. Next we can do the thermocouple. So that's this copper and brass wire. It's going to come over here to the side. A lot of times they're marked, sometimes they're not. But we're going to just tighten this guy up right in this location. And then the pilot tube, which will supply gas to the pilot light, it's going to tighten into the body of the appliance body of the gas valve here on an angle. And it says pilot right next to it, just in case you ever get a stripped down valve or a system where you took everything off and you come back 2 weeks later and you can't remember where anything goes. It's nice that the manufacturer gives those little labels on the body of the aluminum body of the gas valve itself. Great, pretty tight in here, so we're just going to use this, put it through, and then just turn it. It's hard to reach that. Okay, now we've got most of these connected. Then we need a spark, and that'll just push on the back of our sparker. Great. And then we'll take a look inside the firebox here. And let's see if we have a little spark. Yep, I can see a little spark right here. So that works great. I think we're good to hook up our wall switch wires and get some gas supply to this and do a quick fire up test, make sure it works, and then we'll assemble all the interior components and we will have performed a new pilot assembly changeout. Now we'll go ahead and make our gas connection on our test unit. This is a compression fitting. So all we need to do is run it in by hand till it bottoms out and then give it one small bit of tightening and we're good to go. That's it. And we'll turn our gas supply on. And we're going to adjust to our indicator to go to pilot. Because it is a standing pilot, we're going to press and hold. It's purging the gas line. We can hear it right now. If you ever want to test to see if there is gas flow, if you can't hear it, I'll show you a simple trick. And the simple trick is this. You depress the main valve and light this, and if you see it pushing your flame away, then you know you have gas or air coming out. I'm just testing a little leak I thought I saw down there. Okay, we're good. So we have our pilot flame, it's lit up, and our gas supply is functioning. Our valve is in the pilot position. Next we need to turn this to the on position. And we're waiting for our thermopile to warm up. And then we're going to reach over on the left hand side and we're going to turn the switch on. But first, right here, that flame has to warm this up, usually for about 30 seconds to 1 minute, very similar to a water heater. One thing we better do is put our main burner in. Now we can see how the pilot flame goes right over those holes. So when the main burner is turned on, when we call for heat, it will push a large amount of fuel supply through this main burner tube into the main burner, and then it jets out of all of the holes and will be ignited by the pilot flame. It may or may not be warm enough, but we should be getting close. Make sure our junctions are tight. So what we may do at this time is go ahead and put our voltmeter on here and make sure that our thermopile is actually putting out 250 millivolts. Perhaps it is damaged or broken and it is not sensing the heat. So I'll show you how to test the thermopile next. Great, so now we're going to take a look with our Midtown Chimney Sweeps gas diagnosis kit, and we'll set up our brand new, never used before voltage detector. It comes with two cords, red and black. It has protective covers. We pull these off, usually discard them, and they're going to be our sensor wires. We're going to attach the black to the common in the middle, and the red one we're going to attach to this guy over here. Then we're going to turn the setting, very important, we're going to go to volts DC, so VDC for volts direct current. Also, you can pull these extra tips off and give you more of a more exposure, so it's easier to reach. And we're going to read on this display, we want to find 250 millivolts, and in this case we might be less because we're just not getting a good reading here. I'm going to switch them, It just takes it negative versus positive. Yeah, we are not getting a good millivolt reading here. We're getting around 2.7 to 3, and we need around 250. So we're going to believe that this is probably a bad thermopile. So we'll check it to another one. And actually, here's a brand new one. Okay, here's a brand new one in the bag. Let's see if that's what's needed. They come with a optional sleeve if you need to use it on something else. Usually we just discard that because usually we don't need it. This is a universal thermopile. And let's take a reading off of this guy. It's brand new. Again, we turn it back to VDC. And we're going to put it manually over in the pilot flame. And take our reading by putting our thumbs on the indicators. And now we're getting 130, 40, 50, and the numbers are increasing. So I believe we had a bad thermopile. We just need to swap out that one component. Yep, we're already up to 215, 220. And again, this gas valve is not going to acknowledge anything less than around 250. So now we're good. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect this, pull that one component out, and replace it. So we're going to go ahead and turn this off so that we can get it cooling down. And then this is the new one we will put on. So we have removed the old thermopile, and now we're going to put the new thermopile in. Just again, we're going to insert it in there till it's snug. It's up, and we are heating up the top 1/3 on this model. And we're going to fish the wire through. And then we're going to train everything to line up with our screw pattern in here and reinstall the pilot assembly and do another test. I recommend doing test fires when you're diagnosing and working on these so that you can more quickly get to the bottom of an issue and you're not dealing with taking the glass out and the logs out, etc. Okay, then we're going to take these wires, bring them up, connect them back to the gas valve, and we'll start up our pilot one more time and see if we get a strong enough reading to support turning on the main gas valve. So now we're going to install the interior panel configuration after having successfully changed the thermocouple, thermopile, the sparker, the entire pilot assembly, doing a little test. So let's go ahead and start putting the decorative covers over. Usually when the main burner goes in, something secures it in place, some type of screw. So we're going to put this in, and it's going to slide over the burner jet. This is our opening that adjusts the airflow that is allowed to come in. In this case, it's a primitive tube right through the back of the fireplace insert. Cold air drops and comes in and gets sucked in through the Venturi adjustment and then goes down propelled by the gas. So it's a Venturi adjustment or the air shutter adjustment right there. In this case, it slides on. Again, we'll use our screw gun for speed and secure it, usually with 1 or 2 screws that will hold it in place. Now our burner tube will not move, and we're going to put our decorative burner cover on, specifically designed for this make and model. It's going to go down and secure with several screws. It looks like in the back wall here. It's important that these screws be used to fill the holes, because these holes are in the actual firebox in some models. And that means it's a hole to the outside world that monoxide could enter the residence. So line up on the back wall. Again, several screws to hold it in place. Okay, that's secured. Then next comes the interior decorative panels. You always just put them back the way you took them out. So I recommend that you take a photo before you get too far into a diagnosis and repair. Make sure you take a photo so you know how the panels go in, how the logs go in, or you can forget. You can totally forget how it went. There's a little retainer clip we've got to make sure we're on the correct side of, and the right side. And it needs to finish roughly in the plane of the entire front face of the unit, because that's where our glass door is going to seal. Usually there's several logs, and if there are logs, there are usually some type of little metal clips bent up to support the logs. Usually the largest log always goes in the rear. And in this case there's a notch for the pilot. So our log will just kind of nest over the pilot assembly like so. Usually you don't want to have any of these burner jets covered. You want the flame to shoot up next to the log, but not under the log. These guys go in between. They go in between. And once the configuration is set, we've checked it to our drawing, diagram, or photo, then we'll put the glass door back on. Make sure you use a clean rag, like a gas fireplace cleaner, to clean the inside, and then follow it up with the clear glass cleaner that is like a Windex type brand. In this case, this bottom track will fit into clips and it will tilt, and that's what locks the bottom. The emblem being the word Napoleon, which is the brand. This is about a 25-year-old insert. Then we'll just swing it just a little to the left. Looks like our screws are going to line up. So we'll put our screws in, and you know it's an old unit when they don't use hand clips. That's what all the new ones have. These have screws. Make sure that gasket is in good working order. Very important. Make sure the screws are secured, and that your liner is attached. You've got an intake and an outtake. It's a direct vent unit. Our glass is on and clean. Thermopile, thermocouple. Then in this case we can go ahead and press and go through the normal ignition process, test our work, let it burn for 5 to 15 minutes to ensure that everything is drafting properly, air is coming in properly, and we have done a minor repair to a Millivolt system.